Two concepts that need to be very clear before we attempt to understand the topics in this session are Mendel's laws, especially the law of independent assortment, and the process of gametogenesis. Also related to gametogenesis is meiosis, a process that you have covered in your previous year. Discussed that Mendel published his work in 1865, but the work remained unrecognized till 1900s. The main reasons were, initially, communication as we know it now was not available. At that time, his work could not receive the publicity it deserved. Second, using mathematics to explain biological phenomena was totally new and it was not accepted. Third, Mendel said that his factors, or genes as we call them now, are discrete units. They are like small packets that can be separated, that do not mix or blend, and that produce traits such as tallness or dwarfness. But we know humans or even animals cannot be categorized as tall and dwarf. In fact, variation in height is continuous and gradual. So apparently, continuous variation seen in nature among the humans and animals cannot be explained through Mendel's factors. Finally, the factors that Mendel discussed, if they were discrete units or packets, they should be visible or some physical proof of their existence should be available. But Mendel could not provide any evidence of the existence of factors or say what they were made of. So what happened in 1900 that gave recognition to Mendel? Let's see. So the first thing that happened in the year 1900 was microscopes. Though the first microscopes were already made in 1595 and were then improved by scientists such as Leeuwenhoek and Robert Hooke, but the microscopes of these scientists still had a magnification of 30x to 50x, and they also had problems such as spherical aberrations and chromatic aberrations. In short, the images were not clear. It was only around 1900 that Carl Zeiss and Ernst Abbe started manufacturing the microscopes as we know them today. As the microscopes were being developed in Germany, in another part of Europe, Fleming was studying cell division with the newly developed microscope, completely unaware that his discovery will give Mendel the proof that he needs. Fleming was studying cell division. He managed to see thread-like structures in nucleus which shorten and divide longitudinally during cell division. These threads were later named as chromosomes. To recap what happened in the 1900s: advances in microscopy, discovery of chromosomes, behavior of chromosomes during cell division was studied and documented, the rediscovery of Mendel's work by Derice, Gorentz and von Schirmack, but most important was drawing a correlation between these various studies done in different parts of the world. This was done by Walter Sutton and Theodore Boveri, who managed to draw a parallel to the behavior of genes and used chromosomes' movements to explain Mendel's laws. So here you can see that during meiosis, chromosomes behave in the same way as Mendel said that his factors behave. Chromosomes replicate to form two copies. During meiosis 1, the chromosomes segregate, and so do the genes present on the chromosomes. In meiosis 2, the genes on the chromosomes are given one copy to each gamete. Now, if we take two sets of genes that are present on two different chromosome pairs, during meiosis 1, the two sets segregate. like we just saw. And then random combinations are made. Either of the chromosome of one set can go with either of the other set. Parental combinations are first broken down and then new combinations are made randomly. These are the new combinations. So here you can see the parallel between behavior of chromosomes and Mendel's factors. Let's recap. Both Mendel's factors and chromosomes occur in pairs. They segregate at the time of gamete formation such that only one of each pair is transmitted to a gamete. And if you are taking two sets of chromosomes or two pairs of genes, independent pairs segregate independently of each other. Now, this uniting of fresh evidence about chromosomes with Mendel's laws lead to the development of chromosomal theory of inheritance. This states that the chromosomes are the carriers of genetic material that are responsible for inheritance. Now, the experimental verification of chromosomal theory of inheritance. This was done by Thomas Hunt Morgan, or commonly known as T.H. Morgan. He worked on Drosophila melanogaster, the very small fruit fly. Now, why he took Drosophila melanogaster or the fruit fly? Because it could be grown on simple synthetic medium in the laboratory. It completes its life cycle in about 2 weeks. So in a very short period, you can get multiple generations. Single mating will produce a large number of progenies, and there is a clear differentiation of sexes. The male and the female flies can be easily distinguished. Finally, it has many types of heredity variations that can be seen with a low power microscope. Now, Morgan followed the procedure of Mendel, but he used Drosophila instead of peas. He performed dihybrid crosses, but the genes he took were located on sex chromosomes. So he performed the cross. He got the F1 progeny and then intercrossed the F1 progeny to get the F2 progeny. But here comes a problem. The result Mendel got for dihybrid cross in F2 generation was 9:3:3:1. But this isn't what Morgan got. He got a different ratio. In his ratio, parental combinations were more and the new combinations were lesser. So he got more of yellow-bodied white-eyed organism, more of brown-bodied red-eyed organism, but the number of organisms with new combinations, that is yellow bodied with red eye and brown body with white eye, were lesser. Now Morgan knew that the traits he has taken were sex linked, which means that they were located on chromosome X. So he concluded that since these two genes he was studying was on the same chromosome, they were physically linked or there was linkage between them. So he coined the term linkage to describe the genes present on the same chromosomes. So the linked genes cannot be assorted independently of each other. Now if we see these as the sex chromosome of Drosophila, the gene for body color is located here and the gene for eye color is located here on the same chromosome. So this explains why the parental combinations are more. But if the genes are located on same chromosome, to make new combinations, the chromosome will have to be broken. So these two genes on the same chromosome shouldn't separate at all. Then how come new combinations are produced? The generation of non-parental gene combinations was due to another process known as recombination. The secret to this lies in crossing over, a process seen during meiosis I prophase. Segments of chromosomes are exchanged between non-sister chromatids of homologous chromosome. Now, for recombination to take place, there should be some distance between the genes. If a gene A is located here and another gene B is located here, the gap between the two genes is large, let's say 5 units. So the chances of recombination here are good. But if there is another gene C located here, the gap between A and C is lesser, let's say 2 units, in which case chances of recombination would be less, for the simple reason that less gap is available for crossing over to take place. Now, on the basis of percentage of recombinations obtained, we can say that A and C are tightly linked and A and B are loosely linked. So, Morgan showed that if we took 3 characters in Drosophila, yellow body color and white eye color are tightly linked with only 1.3% recombination, while white eye color and miniature wing were loosely linked with 37.2% recombinations. So if you are given the percentage of recombinants produced for 2 genes, you will be able to decipher whether the genes are located closer or far from each other. This is what was done by Sturtevant, a student of Morgan. He gave us a method of gene mapping. Gene mapping means using the frequency of recombination between gene pairs on the same chromosome to measure the distance between genes. Gene maps do not give the exact distance between 2 genes, but they give the relative position of genes. So sequencing becomes easier. They just become a good starting point in the sequencing of whole genome, as we'll see later in case of Human Genome Project. The unit used for distance between these 2 genes was Morgan unit.